Alright, we're looking at 5.4. So it just got moved onto its own branch in GitHub. So I downloaded it, compiled it, and we're going to have a look at some of the new features. So a couple of disclaimers. It's not alpha, beta, preview. It's like still being worked on. So although it's fun to look at what's going to come, definitely not production ready, crashes a lot, and all these features could change, be removed, it's still up in the air. Secondly, I'm not the best person to look at every feature. Like, I really am not the person to be looking at all the new chaos physics stuff or animation stuff. So I'm going to look at only what's relevant to me, on you guys, virtual production, that kind of stuff. So this is by no means an exhaustive list. Now, that being said, let us dive in and have a look at my Unreal 5.4 cast. Thank Cooper for that one. Alrighty, now we are definitely in Unreal 5.4. You can see there, I just compiled it on, with not as many errors as I thought, and a couple, which is really good. I'm going to start with going through some interesting plugins, I think. First of all, the editor doesn't look that much different, so sorry there. Now, a few things. There is some Apple Vision Pro related things. There's an Apple Vision API, as well as an OpenXR for runtime for Vision OS. So anyone hoping that the Vision Pro is going to be included in this release, there you go. Fab makes its appearance in Unreal. So it has been in UEFN for a bit. It's now in Unreal, sort of. This is just a placeholder plugin. There is no code, there's no content. It's purely just an icon and an empty folder. So no problems there. Livelink has a fun new thing called Livelink Hub, which we'll have a look at. Sort of your central program that runs outside of Unreal to take in all the tracking data and spit it back out. Quite a few cool use cases for that one. There is playlists. I don't know if this has been in it since 5.3. I've been stuck on 5.1 for quite a while, doing some legacy projects, so it's all new to me. So if it already existed, then that's fine. A couple of plugins related to Avalanche. I'm going to say that word. The SVG importer, as you can see there, so you can finally a native plugin for importing SVG and vector graph images. Also an advanced renamer tool. There it is. Also handy tool. Just mass renaming things, kind of like PowerToys or any Windows program that does that. Of course, as you saw, Avalanche makes its debut. Project Avalanche was the name of the development. It's actually debuting as Motion Design, which is a lot more boring a name. But this is two things, really. It is sort of Cinema 4D motion design cloners and effectors make an appearance. So if you know Cinema 4D, this is probably going to be very familiar to you, as well as some more traditional broadcast tools such as Viz and Expression. If you've ever used either of those two programs, there'll be a lot of familiar things in here as well for 2D live graphics, lower thirds, that kind of stuff. The last, I guess, interesting plugin that I found is these neural network things. They seem to also be placeholders or potentially like a template plugin or some sort of gateway for people to implement these things. There's a neural network engine denoiser, runtime-based CPU thing. There's this runtime API, ORT. I don't know what Onyx runtime accelerated things are. Runtime RDG for some rendering. I assume it's something to do with AI generating information based on Unreal buffers or something like that. Not gonna try and even guess what that might be, because I'm going to be wrong regardless. Alrighty, so let's dive in, and I'm going to dive in with everyone's favorite first, Avalanche. I'm going to call it Avalanche, even though it's not called Avalanche. So you'll notice we have this motion design tab up here. So a motion design asset or an Avalanche asset changes the UI, but it's based in a level. So if I go File, New Level, you'll actually see that we have a motion design template here. Now this one's a 2D template, like so. Looks pretty cool. I can jump out of the cinema camera here. Here we go. But you can already see the sort of different viewport we have. So we already have these ruler grids, which is really helpful if you're doing this kind of stuff. We've got the sequencer is automatically opened. It's got some sort of a few sequences we can display here. Down the bottom, we have some various hotkeys and quick things. Over here, we have a different outliner. The ability to lock things, hide things, change colors of things, some selection stuff. We've got details panel. Up here we have an operator stack, remote control, material designer, default, transition logic. There's a lot of stuff in here. I'm going to go to a blank level though, just so we can have even more stuff on the screen. Funny enough there. So to start with, we have a new add panel specific to the motion design stuff. We have 2D shapes and 3D shapes, as well as some various actors. We've got cloners, effectors, spline, media plate, SVG, null actor, text actor, some generic meshes if we want to use those, some tools for adding cameras and lights and very quick stuff like that. Now, when I go to add something, I get this grid appear, and I draw on the grid and it adds to that, and I can snap to the grid and stuff like that. And it draws a plane in based on the camera location, which is probably the biggest difference. Obviously, regular Unreal, you drag something out and it sort of uses collision to detect where to place it on the world. Whether Avalanche, you're sort of placing it in, I don't know, the screen space somewhere in front of you. Same for these 3D shapes. If I grab cube, I actually just draw a cube in, and now cube exists. So I can see them populating up here. Obviously, we can use just normal us. We can just use normal actors as well. Like I could place a cube in there. Oh, let me stop doing that. Now the operator stack is kind of cool. So we have some cool modifiers now. So I can go ahead and add. We've got some layout options, some geometry options, some rendering options. I'll probably do a more in-depth video of this. I'm just scratching the surface really. But we can start to add things that affect the geometry. So like I can add a bevel to this cube, like so. I can increase the iterations of it. Could probably add a subdivide on top of that to make it look even nicer. Oh, it's not that kind of subdivide. Whoops, my bad. Plane cut, so I can cut it like that, which looks really cool. Can then rearrange these, so if I wanted the plane cut to come first and the bevel to apply afterwards. Also have some animation modifiers, so I can add various bounce, for example. If I go rotate, there we go. I think that's applying to every axis, which probably shouldn't. Can I make that location YZ? There you go. So we can go ahead and start. You can see how this can be very powerful and quick to do stuff. I'm not a designer. I don't know Cinema 4D, so I'm sure people that know what they're doing can do a lot more with it. Now, one interesting thing is the material designer. So basically, if you don't know or don't care to learn Unreal's material system with nodes, then you can use this instead, which basically operates exactly like Photoshop. We've got layers. I can add new layers, so I can add a solid color layer. I can change the color of that layer to green. I can go into the opacity channel. It's automatically added a gradient for me. I don't choose a different thing to apply as a gradient or opacity. Brick maybe. Let's see how that goes. And so what this is actually doing is building up your nodes for you in the background. So there is a way, let me see, I think if I bring back the normal detail panel, which says it's here somewhere. here we go. Yeah, there is a way you can find the material and see the material it's building out. So quick and easy for people that know Photoshop, that want to just quickly lay out materials without having to bother with nodes or what order to put things in, all that kind of stuff, where to plug what into. We have a remote control, so remote control powers all of this. Very important. That's why I'm a big fan of it of recent, so definitely great. Let me just expose. The little doohickey for remote control has changed slightly to this little, I guess, remote control, a bit more accurate. But remote control controls your graphics, your designs, which, if you watch my tutorial about render grids, starts to make sense why that operates on remote control. What we're going to look at in a sec with the broadcast panel also makes sense for that. We'll get there in a sec. Next is the transition logic. So this is more for real-time graphics, less for your Cinema 4D motion graphic stuff. And this is sort of a tree as to what graphic plays, or what animation of each graphic plays in what order, and what is and isn't allowed to play in what order. Transition logic, I'm told, is name and everything, similar to some other tools. So that probably makes sense to those people. I'm not familiar with it, but the basic idea is to, like how we would build a blueprint, basically, to control, you know, oh, play this animation, and then once that's done, then play this animation. And you can't play that animation unless this one's finished. That kind of stuff you can now build without a blueprint. Now, once you're done, I could just shoot out of the motion design window there. Now, once you're done putting that together, we have the little broadcast window here. So I can go ahead and click that, and that'll bring up our playout manager, our render server. This is the thing in charge of rendering. So here, now that's for real-time graphics, not for Cinema 4D renderers. Movie render queue still works with Avalanche and all that, so you can still do normal high-quality renders this way, that way. This is for if I want to basically run my graphics, so my lower thirds or something. I start these up. These each are basically a device that gets renders. So if I want 4 graphics at the same time rendered, I would spin up 4 of these. They will receive information from the, I can't remember what it's called, the playout manager, I guess, as to what graphics to load when and to play them, and what changes to make exposed to remote control, which animations to play, all that kind of stuff. These guys would actually do the rendering and output on your SDI card. You can see that's why my Ultra Studio 4K is just shown up here like that. Again, I'm going to cover how that actually works later, once I have some time to figure it out. Now, in the content browser, we do have a motion design, and we have the rundown, transition tree, some macros, stuff like that. The rundown is the part that I'm most interested in. So this is the control interface, or a potential control interface. Being remote control API, you can control it through DMX, through OSC, through the web interface. It's up to you. I can add my graphics in here. Did I save this map? No, I didn't. So test map. Whoops. All right. So now I can grab test map in here. Crashed it. Yep. Oh, access violation. That is why you don't do anything important with these very early builds. This rundown allows me to have my various graphics or maps in here. I can then add them as templates down here. So if I had a lower third, for example, I could add one for me, one for my friend, one for their friend, and in here. And then on the page details, I can give it a name. So my lower third, don't name anything my lower third in real life, please. I can then expose all the properties, and here is all my remote control preset stuff. So I can, whatever I exposed, I can change. So in this case, I would have exposed, say, the text or 3D text, and so then I could go ahead and edit it and add my own name in this instance. Then when I'm ready, if it has some animation and some transition logic set up, then I can preview it going in, going out, preview next, and I can also take it to program, which means it'll then be rendered on one of those devices. I just crashed again. All very cool stuff. I look forward to figuring out figuring that whole system out and doing some videos about it, but also looking forward to seeing if I can't bootstrap something else into the playout manager system to get it to render something completely different. Who knows, you might be able to use it to control and launch virtual sets, green screen, that kind of stuff. The possibility is there. Moving on to some maybe less exciting news or less talked about news. The Livelink Hub is something I'm actually kind of excited about as well. So to access that, that's under Tools and then Livelink Hub, assuming you have set it up or done the plugin. Now that's going to launch a different program. Livelink Hub runs separately. It can also run separately on a computer. You don't need to have Unreal or your virtual set or whatever you're controlling open on the same computer that the Livelink Hub is running on. Now, in Livelink Hub, we can add sources as normal. So I've just enabled the Livelink input device, which should let me use a mouse and keyboard to control. Maybe not. Maybe it needs to be an Xbox. I can also add a virtual subject like so. Show up there. The idea is that all of your camera tracking equipment, all of your mocap stuff, all point to the engine running the Livelink Hub instead of some other, or each individual engine, especially when you have, say, a virtual set with 6 cameras, all camera trackers point to this, and then this points to all the engines doing the rendering. So I can add additional clients in here. That is either not finished or bugged somehow. Wouldn't be surprised. I can then on that client show which ones get sent to it. So I could send all of them, I could send one of them. Now inside my Unreal, what I do is I go to Virtual Production Livelink, open the Livelink window like that, and it should already show up as a source, but I can always add Livelink Hub as a source directly. I don't think it's working properly because my subjects aren't showing up there, so jumping the gun a bit on that, that's fine. Didn't really expect that. I can choose my evaluation. I'm assuming timecode source. There might be some configuration for genlock or timecode in here at some point. Another really cool thing is I can directly record the Livelink data, and then it'll show up here. Or it should show up here, it might not. Again, this is literally half built. I can save that somewhere. Oh, that's interesting, it has its own content browser. It's very bizarre. Here we go. So now I can go ahead and I can play that recording back. Okay, well, it would play back. Either I've set it up wrong or it's just not working, but that's fine. So I can practice some camera moves, record them, do some mocap, record it. Now this isn't as versatile as Take Recorder because we're just recording the actual camera tracking or mocap data and feeding that back into the engine again. Really good for debugging purposes or for previous purposes, but not really good for final animation authoring. That's fine. Really cool piece of hardware here. Can't wait to see how far it goes. Gonna go ahead and close that. Next, we have something for Movie Render Queue, and that is a way of programming it, basically. So if I find, oh shoot, Cinematics Movie Render Graph Config. I'm gonna save that so it doesn't crash. So this looks exactly like the screenshot on the product board. But allows us to essentially program a movie render queue in. So I can add, say, deferred renderer, path tracer. I can where is it? Output types. I could add a EXR sequence in. All that kind of stuff to then build up a node. I can also add like a branch, so I can say, hey, is this a preview render? Then execute this set. If this a final quality render, execute this set. Is this a path trace render? Execute this set. So I can start to build a global config for everything. Now, as far as I can tell, there's no actual way to use it just yet. That's fine. Wouldn't expect that given the early stage the update is still in. However, I imagine at some point that's either going to replace or the UI in here is going to change, and you'll be able to assign the movie render queue graph in here, and then perhaps have the exposed variables displayed right here. That is my best guess. Could be completely wrong. I guess we'll see. They could rip it out before the update goes out. The last thing that I noticed is a few user interface things in the graph. So first of all, the location here at the top bar is now actually a thing. So I have a history. I can also copy and paste in there. I can type directly in here. I just jump around the editor even quicker, especially if you're going between two locations, which, you know, going from a materials folder to a textures folder and back and forth and back and forward. Always nice to be able to have just a drop down with the history and jump back and forward even faster. The other thing is the outliner now has filters, which I think is from 5.3. However, you can now just right click directly in here, which I don't remember being able to do in 5.3, to set up your filters, which is really handy. So I can just add new filters directly like that. Right, that's about everything I could find that looked good on camera and that worked in this update, or sort of worked. It's very early days, you know, this just yesterday, I think, got put on its own branch in GitHub, ready to be exported, ready to be worked on for release. I know Epic probably, I don't know, maybe they're going to hate me for publishing this early and stealing their thunder, who knows. I'm sure they still have plenty of cool things planned for the engine before release, in which case I will try and stay up to date if any of that changes. Or if this video disappears suddenly, that means Epic was very unhappy about me making this video, and Tim Sweeney brought down the hammer of justice in the form of DMCA takedown. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the video. I have a few other videos planned. I'd already recorded some, but then this came up, so this has sort of jumped to the front of the queue. So realistically, I've recorded 4 videos before this, but this will be the first one you see because I'm back in the country now. Apologies. Was busy over in the United States, but I'm hoping to get a few videos out before having to go back again. So don't forget to like and subscribe, I guess. I think that's the first time I've ever said that, or maybe not, but I'll see you guys later.